I'm a little tired. You want to know why?
Why?
I'm still tired from residency training, even though it was so long. Are you two still tired?
Well, if you put me back in that place and I close my eyes, then I've been up for 36 hours. And
so we had talked before on the show how residency work rules were put into place where interns in their first year of training had been cut back to they couldn't work more than 16 hours at a given time. Well, now the committee that decides these things is recommending that first-year physicians in hospitals should be allowed to work up to 28-hour shifts. And the reason that this is so interesting is because that mark has been bouncing all over the place.
Trying to find what is the right number.
What's the right balance?
So here, let's give our opinions, because it's, in some ways, this is all opinion-based, although a study did come out showing that, look, there was no effect on patient outcomes when surgeons did longer shifts, and so there was some good data that inspired these potential new changes. But when originally they came out and said, okay, interns don't have to work more than 16 hours, I had a big problem with it. And my issue was, number one, I've found a general change in the mentality. There was a lack of, I'm just gonna say that I feel like to some extent when you know you're gonna clock out after 16 hours, there's not as much ownership. One of the things when you're an intern is you should learn how a patient's illness progresses over the course of 24 plus hours. And if a patient comes in and you take care of them for their first 6 hours, then you head home and you come back and either they're better or not, you just don't know what really happened. And it's hard to learn how to take care of someone. And also, this is my humble opinion, it's in those moments when you learn how to become a real doctor.
And I actually completely agree. I think it's an interesting trade-off, because you're right. I think, especially, remember, residency is short. You spend 3 to 5 to 6 years, and you draw upon that, and you don't have the experience that a practicing physician has. And if you don't really learn that trajectory, when you admit that patient and you follow them over time, and you see at what point they're going to do well or they're going to do poorly, and you make that critical decision, if you don't have that opportunity, you lose that experience.
And the great danger, and I'll be honest with you, as an ER doctor, we talk about this all the time, the greatest danger in medicine is during handoffs. And so if the more handoffs you create, the less continuity of patient care. I'm encouraged by this. I hope this change does occur, because I think that the fewer handoffs, the better, the more experience that an intern can get. If you're allowed to be in the hospital, look, I'm not saying that you should work 28 hours every other day.
Correct. Yeah.
But also, would you not agree, and again, purely opinion-based, I'm curious, the one thing that I remember back in residency is you're dealing with so much, and yet I was never consumed with feelings of being tired.
I mean, when you've been in the hospital that long, I mean.
But if you're taking care of someone, Drew, who is sick, and the last thing on your mind is I'm tired. If someone is sick, whether it's 4 a.m. and you've been up for 24 hours or not, the hyper focus that plays a role there, I felt like in some ways that was.
You toughen up. You get used to it. 100%. It's conditioning. Just like anything else. And I think they're easier on medical students too. So that transition from medical student to first year, and then there's no limitations on hours after that. So maybe they're trying to make it a progression, because all residencies have gotten longer. Everything takes more time, more years. I think ultimately you're going to get the education.
But I think people go into medicine, and this is the fundamental thing that I think you're touching upon, is that we all go into medicine to help patients, and that's always the primary concern and priority. And if you're looking at the clock and your shift is up and you're clocking out of that surgery because your hours are done, then that's not in the best interest of the patient. And so I think that that's why we are, even when the hours are long, I think there's a limit. And I think that it's important to point out that even though they're proposing 28 hours, they are still putting an 80-hour limitation on the week. And they're still insisting that 1 in 7 days be off. So you don't totally burn out. But while you're on that shift, you should be focused on the patient. You should establish that continuity. There shouldn't be excessive handouts. And you shouldn't be looking just to clock out because the shift is over, as opposed to what's the priority for the patient's well-being.
And I think it'll be interesting to see how this evolves over time.